Hello everyone, welcome back to Divine Digi. Hope you're all doing well and staying safe. This week I've been working on bottle art. Very simple. Wool, a bottle and a couple of twigs and glue. And this is what I've created, and I'm hoping that it will inspire you to do something similar yourself. So, started off with a beer bottle. Just wash the label off. Now, you could use a wine bottle, a glass jar. I just used a beer bottle because they were to hand. So, beer bottle, bit of wool, couple of twigs, just that I found on the path in the bushes, only thin, and a little bit of glue. And you can create something, I'm hoping you'll create something a little bit better than this. So I've just used scraps of wool wrapped around the bottle, a hairband, a woolen hairband I found, because my knitting skills are fantastic. And I've sewn the hairband onto the bottle, covered the whole thing in PVA glue just to make it all hard and solid. And then popped with the twigs, wrapped wool around the twigs and put pom-poms on the end. Now I've put pom-poms on the end because I'm not as skilled as some of our Divine Days members and volunteers and family members. And I think if you had a go, you probably could create little knitted flowers which would look absolutely marvellous. And I've just put a bobble on the top here just for some decoration. So, let me just take these flowers out. Put them there. So, start off, beer bottle. Bit of wool. I'll use this wool. Now all I did to wrap this wool around was pop a little bit of glue here to hold the wool in position. Not neat, just slapping it on with your wool. Holding it in. Just keeping your thumb holding that end, the first end, and then simply wrap your wool all the way around, and then you can start spinning. Now I'm sure most of you have much nicer wool than this, or this one, so you could change colours every now and again as you're going down. Just put a little bit more glue on just to keep it in place. Just keep spinning all the way till you get to the bottom, or when you want to change a colour, just add a different wool on, trim the end and add the different wool. And eventually you can see how it starts completely covering the beer bottle. So you end up with this. So this is just the plain wool that I've used. When I've got to the neck of the bottle, I've changed colour and just adding some little bits of glue like I showed you there, just taking it all the way down to the bottom. And then popping more glue on the bottom to seal it in. Then attached this hairband, because like I say, my knitting skills aren't marvellous, and I've sewn the headband onto here because it was elastic. And then to make the whole thing solid, I've just literally popped my fingers in the glue and spreaded it all around, and it makes it hard. Great! So hopefully you have nicer wool, and hopefully some of our members, volunteers and family members are able to knit their own band around the bottle or jar or whatever you're using, and it will be even nicer. Now for the flowers, like this one. This is just wool and a twig. So just take a twig, anything that you can find. Oh, my wool. Tie your end on. Tie your wool to the end. I was lucky that I had this last bit of green wool to make green stems. And once you've tied it on the end, all you're going to do is simply wrap it around. This is great for kids to do. Wrapping all the way until you get to the bottom, like this. Once you've got to the bottom, dip it in some glue and it will just hold together until it's dry. Now, to make it more sturdy, again, I've dipped my fingers in the glue and I've just wrapped my fingers around the twig just to make the wool a little bit harder. So here at the bottom, I haven't put any glue on. This is just normal PVA glue. So this is how it looks if you're not going to put any glue on, because you don't have to, it still works great. And then this bit is where I've covered it with glue with my fingers just to make sure that it doesn't come away and it just makes it a bit more sturdy. Now, pom-poms. I've done pom-poms with the children because it's very easy and it just looks great on the top. So, I know you can do pom-poms with card, but I just simply went back to primary school and took the wool and just wrapped it around my 4 fingers. Just kept on wrapping and wrapping and wrapping around till I got a big pile, and then using this and the end, took it off, made it into a figure of 8, and then just tied in the middle. So you end up with a ball like this, and then just trimming one end and the other end gives you this pom-pom. And with this, I've just dipped some glue onto the end. And if you imagine this is covered in your green wool, and just stuck it on the top and waited for it to dry. And that's really all it is. And it's just fabulous to just take something out of the recycling and jazz it up a bit so we have something nice and pretty and something for us to do with our time at home. So, like I say, I know that we have lots of skilled knitters in our Divine Days community, and I'm hoping that this is going to inspire you to do something yourself which will look even more fabulous. Because knitted flowers on the end, although pom-poms are great and they're a lot of fun to make, knitted flowers would look absolutely lovely. So would maybe perhaps putting some flowers here and here, or keeping it plain. Both would be nice. So until next week, I hope I've given you some ideas to do something, and stay safe and see you next time. Bye bye.